Hello and welcome to the Milford Finance Committee, March 14th, 2018. We are not going to approve the minutes because those did not get sent out, and that's my fault, to the committee, so we'll approve those next meeting. Next item on the agenda is the tree warden. It goes without saying, in the last 2 weeks, we've had quite a bit of activity, so we wanted to have Chuck come in and give us an update on what's going on, and obviously he's going to need some dough, so. We can share if you don't have enough, Chuck. Me and Diana can share, as a matter of fact, too. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, wasn't that a fun meeting? Did you like it? I liked it.
Already fall apart.
There were kind of tournaments, a whole bunch of tournaments.
Process is falling. So is there anything we have to do right
Tea time for those.
now? We can do that. We have our own tea.
All right, Chuck, take it away.
Okay, last two storms cost roughly $23,000 to $25,000 to get the town cleaned, not cleaned up, to get the streets opened. I have to because of, there's no equipment for that in town here, and I get out there with the tree crew, the hired tree crew that we have under contract to the town, and unfortunately, that's what the costs are. We have to get those roads open, we have to get them open as quickly as possible, just for safety purposes. The cleanup comes later. That responsibility has fallen on my lap since 2008. Prior to that, it wasn't. It was always, the way the statutes go, it is a highway, it is the highway's responsibility to clear all roads of any debris. It's not it's not the tree warden's responsibility for that.
So what's happened since 2008?
It's become my responsibility. Prior to that, it was always not that I'm not out there. I'm out there doing the work and helping out the crews that are in, but the bills have been processed through the highway department. Once in a great while, they will, if I ask, can you handle this one, and they will. I'm not saying those are all bad. This isn't a personality thing, it's just a interdepartmental.
Oh, and that's what I'm just figuring out what happened in 2008. Did someone decide something that changed everything, or?
Change of leadership,
Okay.
okay? And the calls keep coming to me, and I informed the police, fire, and highway, and Ricky upstairs, and talked to Mr. Buckley, the selectman, that yesterday's storm, because I have no more money in the budget, I can't bring anybody in, and the calls kept coming. I was out there by myself yesterday, doing what we could do.
Jerry.
Item number 5 on page 2, it says, are you in a deficit already?
I'm in a deficit.
It says 10 grand here. Are you in a $10,000 deficit as we sit here tonight? With bills to be paid, with no money in your budget to pay for?
Correct. Because, as I said,
That's different than requesting 25,000.
well, that's
go
what,
forward.
those are what the storm bills.
That's different than, so we gotta figure out how to pay this 10,000 that's in the deficit, and then fund you for the rest of the year.
Okay,
That's what I'm concerned about right now.
right.
'Cause I didn't realize you were 10 grand deficit
Well,
now.
I have approximately $18,000 left prior to the storms. That money will go. So what you're doing is you're funding the bills that are coming in and just replenishing what was in the budget. And that 25 will handle it.
Yep, I'm confused.
The 25 includes storm bills and replenishment of your budget
Yes.
back to normal
Yes, yes.
pre-storm. So it's included in there?
It's included in there.
Because you had 18 before the storms.
Okay.
Once the bills are paid, I will be in the deficit.
So the storms cost $28,000 is really what
I
you're
don't
saying.
think 25,000 is enough, is what I'm trying to get.
I understand what you're getting, but that's,
Because if, it looks like you're requesting 25 and you've already spent 10 of the 25 you're asking.
It's just gonna replenish the budget back to about 18 grand. After all the bills are paid. There's 18 in there now.
yeah, it's going to pay for those storms.
Okay.
It's gonna pay for the storms, that's all it's gonna do, and it'll leave the budget intact.
Just one more follow-up question, because
Go ahead.
if you have enough money, can't you take care of the downed trees and pick them up at the same time with the contractor?
Some of them we can and no, because we have to get those roads open. We could get them to the side of the road in many instances. That's all time allows. It's dangerous out there, you can't see, you're in a raging snowstorm in the last two of them. So it's get that road open for emergency vehicles to get through there, if we have time, or if there's no place to put the debris,
That
we
wasn't my
just
question.
get it up. No, I can't do that. Your question is, can we pick it up at the same time? And I said, some of them we do pick up, and we bring them up to Asylum Street. And that's it. The highway will go around and clean it up afterwards.
Also, Mr. Renaud, you may want to talk about what FEMA has indicated to all tree wardens too, that they want exactly what you just said.
Yeah, FEMA, depending on how that's written up and how the government, or the governor requests the funds, sometimes they will only pay to put that debris to the side of the road. They will not pay for cleanup. If this is a reimbursable event for us, I don't know, nothing's come out yet. The fire chief will get that notification.
How long does it usually take before we get a notification like that? Is that something quick, or do they decide 4 months from now?
Well, it's the federal government,
So 4 months from now. 6 months, yeah.
So that was gonna be actually part of my question too, for the reimbursement. So, I mean, does it come through the utility? Does it come through FEMA? Do we ever get anything back from the utility? Because I know, the utility has the obligation to clear stuff out too, right? Or is it totally up to the
No,
town?
utilities, when something comes down on their wires, they'll take it off the wires, drop it to the side of the road, and they drive to the next.
And just leave it?
And just leave it.
So,
It's on their property, so to speak, and they're clearing it from their property, and then it becomes either the homeowners or the municipality's responsibility
Get
to
rid of
clean
it.
it up.
Chuck, and to kind of follow up with Jerry's question, do you know what the average cost per storm is? And I asked the question kind of on what Jerry said. We have another one projected for Tuesday, heavy wet snow again. So let's fund it right now. If,
You can't.
I know, you don't know what's gonna come down,
It
right?
could be a 2-3 day event, it could be, nothing could happen. I mean, yesterday's storm, there were only two major issues. One was Vicky Lane, which knocked the pole out on Purchase Street, the pressure of a tree coming down.
Yeah.
And the other one was up on Haven Street later on in the evening. And then if I come across one or get a call from one, and it's in the overhead wires are involved, we just
You
move
can't
on
touch
to the
it.
next
Yeah,
one.
you
We
can't
don't
touch
go
it.
in.
Chris?
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we approve this, but I'd also like to kind of footnote it, that I think I would like to have Chuck and the highway surveyor come in together so we can discuss a long-range plan of what we're gonna do about it.
Yeah, that, I was gonna
But-
suggest
but I
that as well,
want-
Jerry. I think that's a,
But I wanna move on this,
Yeah.
so you can go do what you've gotta do in the next month without being hamstrung. So,
Yeah.
I
mean,
if you're okay with 25, I'm okay with making a motion to approve the 25.
Fine.
Where are we taking this 25?
I just have one quick
Yep,
question.
just a second. We take that from our emergency fund at this point, and I was gonna ask the two smart gentlemen in the back, how much is left in our emergency fund?
Spent 36, we had 103.
Yeah, that's plenty. There you go.
73.
Yeah.
He's quick.
67.
The man on mic. See, I said 70, I was close.
Good job.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
next issue that's coming about as a result of the storms are the hanging limbs.
Okay.
The calls are coming in every day, there's another one, there's
Yeah, I
another
have
one.
some of
Let's
those.
get you the 25, and then if you have to come back next month
Ready?
with Scott in hand, then we'll,
Yeah, because I think that's an issue that we should have the
We
two
can
of them
help. We can
sitting.
help.
Yep, I agree. Phil?
Chuck, I know we gotta clean up the trees, but I'm trying to understand the math a little bit, okay? Your budget is 18,000 for the year for trees?
My budget is about
Raised it last
76,000,
year.
so somewhere in there.
Okay.
It's pretty minor for the size of the town.
So if you've already overspent by $10,000, correct? You're in a deficit of 10,
Correct.
all right? And how do you project, so you want to repay that back, so there's 10. So now you got another 15, I guess, for the balance of the year, and you think that 15's enough? That's what I.
Should be.
That,
Not-
That's what I was trying to
It's
understand.
unpredictable
It's not enough-
to
it's
tell you
not
how many.
enough, Phil, but-
It's not enough, but, I mean, I'll make do,
okay,
but
all right.
it's, if another storm comes about.
We'll be back.
Yep.
Okay, all right, I'm-
Yeah, I just
Again, I'll
don't
be
want to,
back
I
in
just,
to
with,
talk to
with,
you.
with emergencies coming up all the time, and because we're making a transfer out of the emergency fund, which you've already depleted already, I don't want to just willy-nilly use the rest of the emergency fund and just say,
Right.
just in case. And in the end, it will drop to the bottom line, so it's a wash anyway, but I'd rather leave the money in the emergency fund, give him what he needs now, and if he has to come back, we'll use the rest of the emergency
Yes,
fund.
I would
I just
agree.
don't want to use the rest of the pool now, just in case something
Yeah.
happens.
I would agree, Mr. Chairman, I would agree.
I agree with that.
To answer Phil's question, full budget's 89,122, of which 82,385 is general expenses.
Ah, okay.
I got a motion on the floor by Jerry to approve an emergency transfer of $25,000 to the tree warden. Second by Jeff. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll be in contact to set up something to have you and Scott come in, and we can meet together.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, Chuck. Next, we have, an item on the agenda is the assessor's office. Jen is actually being a bearer of good news, which we always love.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Coffee, sorry.
Anything else?
All right. We ready?
Yeah. So Jen, what do you got going on? I know that you have some excess funds here, and we want to talk about that, and then the possibility of using some of those funds.
Yes. So the Department of Revenue changed the revaluation cycle that we currently have. Normally, certifications of value have to happen every 3 years. They changed that cycle. They changed it from every 3 to every 5.
Nice.
Oh, great.
Having done that, we were already in the middle of a contract with Patriot Properties, who comes and assists us with our valuation. The pricing for a reval for fiscal 19 was in that contract, which we're currently still in, and we had to back out the reval price because the reval will actually get pushed to our next contract with them. So we were basically budgeted for in fiscal 18, $85,000 that we're not going to use. So, obviously, that money isn't going to, we have no use for that money. We're actually going out now to bid for the contract that will be from FY '20, which will be our reval through '25. We'll do a 5-year contract with them, and that way, every 5 years, it will be in there. So, and the way that the contract pricing worked was that we took the total price of the contract, and we divided that out by 3, and we were paying an equal amount in each third of those years. So it was pretty much that we were front-loaded when we were paying. So the first 2 years of the contract, more than was sufficient for the interim year adjustments exclusive of the reval that we don't
All right,
need.
so you got the full year back, is what you're
So it's a
saying.
full year back, yeah, really.
Right.
So the reason I wanted to have Jen in is that at Jerry's meeting for general government, this topic came up, which obviously was great news. Anytime we can be getting money back. But Jen had an idea of something that we could possibly do that is beneficial with those funds. And we've kind of had the policy that, you know, if you return, a good chunk of change, we can look at the possibility of spending something from those funds if it is beneficial to the town. So in that conversation in general government, and I know that I'll have Jerry talk about it and Jen for a minute, they found a good use for about half the funds. And we thought it was a great idea. Once again, they win, we win, money back, and something positive comes out of it. So we wanted to come before the full committee and have everybody hear it.
Consistent with.
It's consistent to what we've been doing.
Assessor's office and what they do, and it could very well benefit or facilitate the whole process. And I've heard it before, and I thought it was very good, and I think the committee will benefit from hearing it from you. So
Great.
just go ahead and talk
Okay.
like you always have done, and explain it.
You'll be sorry. So what the money that we're looking for is $45,000 and change, and the reason we're looking for that money is to do what they call, it's digitizing data from the mass orthophotography that was done a few years ago. We were able to ascertain a very good price on a flyover to create the picture, if you will, or photograph of Milford from a flyover. That flyover was done with a specific purpose, and the purpose was to then digitize the data that we collected from the photograph. Now, that then got put into a plan, if you will, a GIS plan, a mapping plan, that kind of just sat, and it hasn't really done anything. So this would be actually utilizing the project that we already funded and did that's just sitting there and not actually being implemented. So, and that was kind of before my time.
How old is it?
The data, the ortho imagery is 15, I want to say, 14? I want to say it's 2014 imagery. And it's on the website if you actually want to go on there and look at it. So we collected that data, and then we had this GIS plan. In fact, we had a whole implementation plan. None of this was done kind of, fly-by-night. We had a whole implementation plan done, all of the needs and an assessment of all of the things that we should have as part of our mapping. And I have to tell you, the maps are in dire need of some attention. And this is a huge, huge step that would bring us in the right direction. What they do when we say planimetric is it will give us elevations. It will give us elevations at a 2-foot contour. Right now, I think we're using a 8 or a 10-foot contour. It's something that should be able to be utilized by many of the departments. It's not just something that the assessors use. Certainly, it's a tool that we find very useful, especially with the current condition of the assessors' maps as they exist. This would bring us just light years ahead as far as trying to do title work, research on properties, correcting square footages on assessments, mapping, identifying center lines. And so what that data would include, just to give you a quick idea of the things that they capture, this is an actual, this is from Sanborn. Sanborn's on the state bid list. This is what they do. And what they do is pretty much everything that they would capture for us is within a 95 to 90% accuracy, which is huge. Roads, driveways, parking, alleys, sidewalks, steps, curbs, all of these things get drawn and snapped to a layer of map that we don't currently have. A lot of the things you will see that we have on our online GIS, but those are just visual estimates, if you will. They're drawings that someone else had put there based on what they could see and not based on the ortho photography to then snap that layer on top of the maps and everything else that we have for data that we have collected over the years. GIS is a living, breathing thing. It needs to constantly have attention, and this is something that would give us the attention that it desperately needs. And again, like I said, it should be able to be utilized by lots of departments, right down to DPW should be able to use this a lot better for things. They're going to capture outfalls. They're going to capture buildings, the decks and patios and pools on houses, foundations, street hardware, billboards, mailboxes, parking meters, bus stops, traffic signs, flagpoles, all things that we can then use visually and be able to measure distances when we're trying to capture information and find out if our records are correct or incorrect. And that's huge. Disturbed areas, quarries, any kind of lakes, rivers, streams, vegetation, wetlands, utilities, manholes, catch basins, fire hydrants, water, sewer, utility, light poles, railroads, all of the things that are within the town that they can visually find from that aerial photography would be then captured and would be symbolized so that we can then snap those layers onto what we currently have. So, and I can go on. There's water structures, dams, landmarks, golf courses, cemeteries. Cemeteries is a big one, actually. It's something that gets overlooked, and it's really huge. You can do some really phenomenal things with cemetery data down the road. We're nowhere near ready to use that, but
I'm sure that's very
I know.
interesting, but we can gloss right over that one.
it's very exciting.
And plus, it's not going anywhere. We can come back to that
But you can
conversation
do,
later.
yeah,
so.
it's a genealogy. Basically for genealogy, it's just a service for the public, yeah, absolutely. There's some really great things you can use this for. So anyways, that's basically what this project would entail. It's a large project, and it's a lot of work on behalf of the contractor that's gonna do the work. It's something that I would be remiss if I didn't ask for it in this particular opportunity.
Is this something that comparable sized communities have, do you know?
Oh, smaller towns have this. We are very far behind where we should be technology-wise with our GIS.
You mentioned a lot of things that it overlays. I assume lot lines are in there.
The lot lines are based on the assessor's maps.
Yeah.
So they're not going to change lot lines because those are coming right off meets and bounds from
But
deeds.
will it be a layer in the GIS system?
what will be in a layer is all the data surrounding a particular lot, for example, okay? So if you look at our GIS now,
Which I have.
and you look at a house lot, what you'll find if you turn the ortho photo on
Yep.
is, you've got the ortho, which is the picture of the house, and,
Right.
their little tree over here, and it
Right.
shows the lot line like this.
Right.
Clearly, when you see a stone wall right here, we're in the wrong place. The lot line is 95% of the time gonna be along that stone wall.
Will it show the lot line?
It will show the lot lines, it will show us the stone wall, which will allow us to fix and rectify
And
the
is that
problems we have with lot
rectification
lines.
and the correction of the mismatched data included in the 45,000?
No, no. So that's gonna give us the
An idea
tools.
what that might be.
You know, I
We're
don't.
gonna spend all this money, and I gotta tell you, I'm excited about it, it sounds wonderful.
It is wonderful.
45,000.
Yep.
I'm ready to give you the green light now, but
Okay,
the devil is in the detail.
yep,
And if you have all this data and there are errors in it, and we spend this kind of time and money, we ought to fix it and we ought to maintain it. So my question is, if we know, and we probably don't know because you don't know how many errors there are, what is an approximation of that? And what does it cost annually or semi-annually to go in and update it?
yeah. Assessors maps, I can tell you, are updated on an annual basis. I update the maps every year, based on any plans that are recorded, land plans that are recorded with the Registry of Deeds, once they go on record. So lot lines are constantly being updated.
Got it.
They're not they're not outdated, they're right up to speed. What they aren't is spatially adjusted properly.
And they don't show
and
structures. They don't show all those other things you mentioned, the flagpoles, the manholes.
all this stuff, right. That's gonna give you all this stuff. So what happens is, when you're looking at a map, and this happens quite a bit, is someone will come in and they'll say, well, I have a question about my lot, and, there's a river over here, and there's a this over there, and, how close am I? And you look at the map, and you look at the lot lines, and you go, well, I'm not really sure, because it's not good. So these tools that this will give us will allow us to then, through our annual update process with AppGeo, which is the company that we've contracted with to do our map updates, to say, we have a major spatial issue in this particular area, and we need to make a shift. And the reason for that is we're drawing flat lines on a curved earth.
I understand.
And, right? So there has to be some spatial adjustment. And so this will allow us to have the tools visually to make those adjustments each year and start to pick away at that. If we wanted to do that as a larger project, I could certainly look into that for you or, and for, the sake of the maps at a later date. I don't have
I'll speak for
a number.
myself as one member of the committee. It's absolutely essential that if we're gonna spend that money and put in a foundation, let's make sure everything on top of that foundation is accurate, correct, updated, and maintained.
Right.
If that is not part of the package, then I can't support it.
Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if I understand that this is different from the GIS proposals that came before us a while back from the planning department, or whether this is a portion of that GIS package. That was a much larger, more expensive package, which, as I recall, we kind of backed away from. And now we have the assessor proposing GIS programs and packages. And I'm just curious how that differs from the larger package that the town planner would.
I think this is certainly a much smaller package than was proposed previously.
Well, does it fit in with a inevitably eventually larger GIS program?
Well, I'll let Jen speak to that, but all of it is going to, from every department, every time you update the GIS, everyone benefits from that, and it continues to grow and grow and grow and give you more information. But I don't want to, I'm going to let the professional.
Sure, I can answer that question for you. So this here in my hand, and I'm sorry I don't have copies for you, but this is that plan that would have been presented to you guys a while back. And that total on that plan was 200 and, let's see, they did phase 1, 2, 3. They did 3 phases, and the estimated cost in each of those years was approximately $250,000.
Right.
Okay? Of these 3 pages of lists of things that they've wanted to do and proposed that we do, we've been doing. We've been doing as much as we can possibly squeeze into our budget on an annual basis. Most of the things on here have been done. The large dollar item remaining, or that contributed to those big numbers, was this project that I'm before you tonight with, and an employee. They actually had an employee in there to do GIS work for the town on a full-time, regular basis with benefits and salary. So we've been doing a lot of these things. If I go down that list for you, one of the things we were gonna do is install a camera uploader that was going to take sales as we put them into the system and automatically throw them up to the website so that that data was as up-to-date as it possibly could be. That's done. You know, deploy priority data layers, we've done that. You know, you just go down this list, and anything that was small, you know, $1,000, $3,000, $4,000, we managed to get our companies to do that within our contracts. So we were able to get a lot of this project done. This project will never, this implementation plan will never come back before this finance committee, because the majority of it's done. If anything were to come back, it would be what he's talking about, which is to then spatially fix the town, and, you know, if there were a need at some point down the road for an employee. Everything else has been pretty much taken care of.
Can I just, for the record, because I know a lot of us, when GIS was presented, we were very apprehensive about it, and we thought that those numbers were pretty astronomical. I just want to compliment you, first of all, because you're telling me, besides the employee, the
Yep.
$750,000 you've pretty much done, except for this project?
Yeah, me and Larry have been working very diligently to do that.
Congratulations.
Extremely impressive, and also goes to show what was presented before us. It was good that we were skeptical about it.
Yeah.
So, Jeff?
Jen, hi, I know we kind of talked about this before too, with, you've been talking to Larry, so any future projects, are we gonna write into our plans to make developers give us CAD so we can audit, so we won't have to pay for it? They can update into our GIS.
Right.
From there, they have architects and engineers that do it for their projects, so it should be an easy ask for us.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be proposed through
We
planning?
should ask for that, and Larry and I have discussed that, and he said it's just a matter of that being part of their packet. They can certainly make that a requirement, because the developers and the engineers are doing it anyways.
Right.
It's in CAD, it's just a matter of saying, here it is, and emailing it over, or giving it to you on a desk.
Great point, Jeff, absolutely.
Yeah.
If they have it.
They do.
I mean, why not ask for it? And
Absolutely.
then we can import it, and then it's less work for everyone else and more accuracy.
Absolutely.
So-
Chris, we don't have to make a motion or anything at this point, because we already have the funds.
Oh, the funds are already there, we just wanted her to come
We
before.
just wanna,
But I thought we made it, I'm sorry, I apologize, I made a point if they had funds that were allocated for something else, and now you changed the rules.
We wanted to come before us, and I would like to vote for this, yes.
I would think so.
But I also want to, before anything, and I wanted to do it first, but we kind of get on a tangent. I want to hear from the subcommittee chair and what their committee felt about this as well. I think we already got the essence of what it is. But Jerry, if you wouldn't mind letting me know how your subcommittee felt about it.
I'm very pleased, much like what was said earlier, that the original proposal was XXX, times X, times X. And now we've managed to get to this point and move forward for 45,000 was the number, and bring it from C minus level is my evaluation, maybe. I think
Right.
we talked about this, to a B plus or an A minus level. And what I really consider pretty short numbers.
And $40,000 is also coming back to us.
Well, that's the other thing is, we have a windfall here. Let's just call it, it's a windfall. I mean, the deregulation, whoever did it, created a windfall, and now we can take some of this windfall, about half of it, and upgrade or improve the process immensely. I'm very impressed, and I guess the other thing I tell you is, it's a pleasure working with Jen, because she comes forward with good ideas. I have money, can I use it to do something good? And that's to be commended, to be quite honest, and I applaud it, so.
Yeah,
Bill?
yeah. Quick question, Jen, this might be off the wall, but, well, you know, this better mapping, will that result in better valuations? Like if someone has a pool and you don't have that record and you get a map and it shows the pool? I just wanted to get that.
Do you have a pool?
Yes, I do have a pool.
Not anymore.
Yeah, Bill, that-
Called his wife, she's putting the tarp
It's a
up
small,
now.
Jen, it's a small pool.
Yeah,
You might not, you might not see it from the air.
yeah. I can tell.
leaves are over it.
I can tell you that there are things we see on those images alone, and they're 3 years old, 3, 4 years old.
Yeah.
That blow our minds, and we're like, wait a minute, this is town-owned property, what are all these cars? Whose cars are these?
Okay.
You know, it runs the gamut of things that you see in a picture.
Which can be very helpful.
It can be
Okay.
very helpful,
Yes,
yeah.
I'll
And
leave
as-
it at
and
that.
as far as assessing goes, absolutely, and we
Yeah.
do. I'm on GIS every single day. I use
Yeah.
this tool
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah,
Okay.
And as much as we are not here to make more money,
yeah.
there's certainly the possibility of things that we're missing that we're not getting proper payment for.
It's okay.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, just a comment, if no one on this committee has used it, I suggest you go on the website, and that's what it is, there's a link to it. Actually, for something from 2014, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Jerry, question to you, though. Does your committee feel, the items that I have expressed, the concerns that I have expressed, that we ought to know, what is the ongoing cost going to be? And,
I don't know what the ongoing cost
okay,
is.
should we know before we jump into this? That's a question to you and your subcommittee. I mean, I think we should identify, as best we can, what the total package is. Because, and I know you well enough to say that when you do something, you do it right.
Thank you.
Do it right the first time.
Yeah, that's my goal, and I appreciate your comment about if we're gonna do this, can we go next year and say it's still updated, and move on, and keep,
Fix the corrections. You
yeah.
find these errors, fix them.
I'm not sure that it shouldn't be a part of that ongoing piece that you're talking about, shouldn't be a part of this whole reval process.
In theory, you agree with me.
Yes, I do agree with you, much so.
Thank you.
And I would, and if I can take this gigantic step for 45,000, I'm not uncomfortable with what it's gonna take to keep it going.
Right.
And I'm looking at we're already at a reval project of 90,000 now over 5 years. We used to spend reval 90,000 over 3 years, so we've already saved substantial. Can we redirect this money to keep this going? Are we gonna be okay with it?
I don't know, because as far as what the reval, if you're suggesting what the reval cost will come in at,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm guessing now.
I don't think it's gonna go down a whole heck of a lot on an annual basis. You know, these reval companies are losing a ton of business by bumping
Sure they
revals
are,
out from 3 to 5. So I don't anticipate a big
They'll all raise
decrease in
their
their
rates.
price. Of
And
course
they'll
they
all
will.
match and we'll do
Exactly,
the same.
yeah. So I can't say that, yeah, I think that, you know,
I don't
you know-
have a hard number for you, Bob, but I'm not uncomfortable with moving forward.
Well,
Okay.
I think we should look at it if we can, even if it's at 50,000-foot level. Let's look at it so we
We
know.
will. You okay with it?
No.
You were in the meeting. He was there. We were all in contact.
Let's get a motion.
So-
Jerry, make a
So I
motion.
guess I'm a little confused. So this, you wanna spend $45,000 for this, but this wasn't part of the general scope of the funding that you had gotten prior to this, right?
Yeah, she has $85,000 extra. She's proposing spending 45 of
Is it
the 80
$85,000 extra dollars out of an article or out of her budget?
budget.
Out of her
In her
budget.
budget.
Go, Mike.
So why should this be used from a budget perspective and not be brought back as cash and have an article put in front of town meeting for this?
You can.
She can do that.
I'm just, I
You can
just,
do that.
we're taking operational budget money and spending it on some great whiz-bang thing. I'm not saying it's not wonderful, but it seems to be outside of how we vote operational budgets. And yes, this came back because you didn't need to use it, but shouldn't it just fall back into the account and then pass an article and have town meeting vote for it? Isn't that how we're supposed to do these things?
It's within the scope of her department, number
No.
one.
No, she's gonna go out and buy a product.
Well, but also next year, since she would propose in her budget, she would put this in her budget. She wouldn't do an article.
She wouldn't do an article for GIS?
I don't think so. I think you'd put it in your budget and then defend it when your budget went up more than the 2%. That's what I would think you would do, right?
I would, it would be in the budget.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And we don't do that to the library. The library comes up with a new contract to handle the security or the books, like we talked about the other night. And now all of a sudden, they got a new service for $5,000, I think we saw.
No, they go and get an
No,
article.
they don't. No, no, they don't.
They have.
Am I right?
Go ahead,
We
continue.
have programming computer services coming up that are additional
No,
funding.
that's different. She's going out to have a company, right? Do this flying airplane over Milford.
No, that's done.
That's already done.
That's already
That
done.
part's done.
That part's done.
We did it, and we never did anything with the data.
So now you want to, but you're gonna still gonna go out to contract a service to get this done,
Sure.
right?
But
So
a
how is
lot
that
has
an
changed
operation?
since 2014. Shouldn't we do a flyover again?
we were
I know
very,
it's cost a few bucks, but I mean,
I mean, that's more than this project here. And the
drones
reason
do it
that we
now?
were able to get that at such a,
Drones do it now, wouldn't you?
well, I mean, a lot has changed in 3 years in
Sure,
Milford.
of course.
A lot.
yeah, it does. It's constantly changing.
That's the other thing, if you do it in 2018, you'd say, well, why don't we wait till next year, because new things will change, and I'm not, just for the cost, I know that when we had talked about, because it was brought up about doing a new flyover, and you said communities do it as they all band together, and then you all pay
Exactly.
Is
for
that
that.
right?
Yes, well, Milford doesn't pay for it, like, the guy will fly over, and
Makes
Franklin
sense.
pays
Makes sense.
in,
Makes
Hopedale
sense.
pays.
That's how we were able
makes
to
sense.
do that, because that was part of that big plan, and we were able to get it at a really short money, because we did a consortium with a bunch of community, yeah.
Chris, Michael's 100% correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, he's not, you're not incorrect in what you're thinking about, but the money's still being used by the assessor's office. It's still being used by the assessor in a contract type of way. And this doesn't really require, yeah, we can set it up and go to town meeting with an article in May and accomplish the same thing. But I don't really think that's necessary at this point. This doesn't violate the rules of what scope of its original intention. It
Okay.
doesn't, it's not over here in left field right now. Do you agree? I don't know. I don't think it's in left
I
field.
agree with you. No, no,
I
I
think you're
I
moving
think
the-
it's part of the operational.
You're just kind of moving it between lines, which usually we don't allow doing, this is basically what it
There
is.
you go, moving
We
between.
do it all the time. They only vote on one line at town meeting, so it's basically the direct expenses.
That's right.
So there's always overages and underages in all the different line items, as long as that total is what equals, that's how it's
Yeah.
voted at town meeting.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's under the jurisdiction of the board of assessors, it would be their approval as to how they're spending
Yep.
that money, but the town meeting approved it, not by line item.
Thank you.
No, I understand that part of it. I just, okay,
You were looking for more transparency.
yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit, and Zach, when would you do these, if we didn't spend any of this money, right? You wouldn't take it out of her budget right now anyway, would you? You'd wait until the end of the year and you'd close the books out, right?
You got it.
Okay, all right. No, it's just, I think it's something we need to know, but I just needed to know what the.
Mike, I don't think
I
you're
totally
wrong.
agree.
I don't think you're wrong,
No.
okay?
Right.
Just we're allowing the department some flexibility.
Yep.
Period.
And
Okay.
that's within our purview, our responsibility to, and we can say no, like we've
Right.
said on many times, but we can also say yes. I mean, this one feels pretty good.
I just don't want it to fall into the, when I bought a snow blower type of thing.
Yeah. But that's why we always want them to come before us, and that's why I want to vote on it too,
With a new
so.
truck, because of that
I
extra money.
completely agree with you, and that's why, when Jen talked about it, we said, come on in.
Since it's,
Well,
And if it doesn't make sense, then we don't, but I think in this particular case, and I know what general government, they felt so, that, it was beneficial, and it's not costing us any more money, so.
good idea.
So with Jerry's subcommittee recommendation, I'll put the motion forward.
Very good.
I think we should be on the record to say we've endorsed
I
it.
We are on the record.
Motion by Mr. Schiavi, second by Jerry, for the $45,000 expenditure for, exactly what do you call it?
I would just,
I know it was Net Geo
Data
does it.
extraction.
I would say digitizing.
Digitizing the flyover, and then you will also have the $40,000 extra will fall to the bottom. You won't spend that on anything else,
No, close it out.
and we'll close that out.
Super.
Perfect. So any more discussion on that?
No.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for coming in,
Thank you
Jen.
Can't wait to
Appreciate
get
it.
it done. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, John.
Appreciate it.
Good job.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the Parks Department, and I spoke to the chairman of the Parks Department, and I was unaware that our subcommittee had gone to one of the parks meetings, and this was just a kind of an update meeting, and basically I wanted to know about two main things, about the pool and about the fields. And those were the two things. And instead of having them come in, because I wasn't sure on timing and anything, and I talked to Joyce, who's the chairman of that committee, we thought Joyce could just give us an update on those two things. It was not much speaking to the chairman, so I figured save them the time coming in, and we'll speak to them come budget time anyway, in a month anyway, so. Joyce, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, what it was is they had 3 projects for turfing fields. One is the Pheno Field, the baseball field. The other is a field behind the high school, and the other is Town Park. They had 3 proposals, and they were going to look at which one, they know they can't do all 3, and they know that they have money set aside for fields, so they have to decide which one they're gonna do. They were gonna go back and they were gonna discuss it amongst themselves before deciding what they wanted to do. And that's pretty much it for right now.
Yeah, but they've narrowed it down, though, to those are the three areas they want to
Those are the
focus on.
three, and they just have to pick one, because they know they cannot do all three.
Now, this is something we've
Can
been,
we share some numbers?
I don't have the numbers
I
with
don't-
me
yeah, I
tonight. I
don't
know
wanna-
that,
Are we
No.
talking 50,000, 100,000?
no, we're.
Oh, no,
we're-
1.2
we're
million.
talking- we're
That's
talking-
what we've allocated for the park
Yeah.
so far, is 1.2 million for that
We're
project.
talking, we're
That's the
talking-
200,000 we've been throwing away.
Away,
fields.
putting away,
No,
putting away.
Putting away.
Yes, we've been allocating 200,000 a year for the last 6 years. Yeah. The layaway, it's rent to center style.
This is the same thing.
Okay.
So Joyce, they're gonna come forward with a recommendation, and then we have to do a article on that? We did for the
Oh, yeah, that
Right,
would.
yeah.
football field, right?
Yeah,
So-
that's gonna be big, and there's gonna be a lot of debate about that and everything else, oh, yeah.
They're gonna discuss amongst themselves, because they're gonna pick which one they wanna do.
Okay.
And then, once they have that, then they will come forward and, look for the money for that.
We have enough money at this point to move forward with one of these?
No,
I think one of them, speaking to, I think one of them, we do have enough money, another one, we don't. So it's still in limbo, it is certainly far from being decided,
they
but
haven't even decided which one
it's,
they want.
it's at least rounded it down to 3 now at this point.
I'm against doing a baseball field, I'll tell you right now, so, I mean, that's not gonna work. I'm coming from.
And the other article that we wanted the update on was the pool.
The other one was the
Baseball field.
pool.
What are you, an American?
Excuse me.
Guys,
Baseball field.
seriously.
What they're trying to decide is they're trying to decide what to do with the Pheno Field pool. And, one of the proposals, or one of the, I don't know if it's a proposal per se, but they have information where it would be like a complete revamp of the pool. I believe it's not ADA accessible, so that
Yeah.
all takes into consideration that.
It's not.
That's quite a bit of money.
Oh, Joyce, do you even want to give the ballpark? I think everyone would be a little surprised by it, that's why I wanted the update.
Yeah, we're probably $5-6 million for that.
That's why I wanted, the pool,
Sounds about
pool.
right.
so that's
Sounds
why,
about right.
yeah,
Yeah. So they were a little,
you'll see that on GIS.
yeah.
You may
So
not.
They were kind of like trying to decide if, because of the amount of money that it would cost for that, to redo that pool, for the amount of time that it gets used in the year. They're trying to outweigh the cost versus the benefit of that. And,
This is
they.
the Pheno Field pool?
The Pheno Field pool.
The beach pool, basically, right?
Yeah. The other thing was too, they had mentioned that then they were gonna look into this other idea of, just eliminating that pool and putting like a little splash pool in. But they didn't have any information on that. That was something that just came up at the meeting. So that's where that's,
Mr. Chairman,
And I think their third option was just pave it over.
just pave it over, right? And just, right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
To that last point there about phasing out a regular full-service pool and moving to splash pools and lighter duty items, I've been hearing where a lot of municipalities are actually moving in that direction to eliminate liabilities, huge
Lifeguards,
expenses,
yeah, huge expenses.
and more for small child entertainment, where, like you say, wading pools, things like that. And I hope they really consider that.
Yeah, they were gonna look into that. They were supposed to get back to,
I think it's a great idea,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, Bobby.
Who owns the Casey pool?
Still the state?
State.
They wanted to sell it to us for $1. Maybe the Parks Department should relook at that.
Wait a minute, the last time we bought something for
For
a
a dollar,
dollar.
it cost us $6 million.
Cost us $5 million.
Very good point, Mr. Schiavi.
Strike
And
that
sti-
from the
hey,
record.
And it's still
Strike that
costing
from
us.
the record.
And it's still costing us. Very good point, Schiavi.
Mike,
Oh, I'm sorry, were you done?
I am,
Bobby?
yes.
Jeff?
Just to touch base on the fields too, and I appreciate Joyce's input from that. I went into that meeting, and we're due for another meeting with them, because they were looking at the different options. I was under the impression, because I was listening to Al, that we're putting this money aside to turf a field, not to turf a field, to build a field like behind the tradesman. That's not in the cards. They want a turf, the Parks Department wants a turf field. Those are the three options that Joyce said. I think there's some questions that come up since that. I know I certainly have a question now. I've seen a capital item on the school department budget to replace the turf at the high school for, I think it's $500,000 on the capital budget.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
that's-
my question is, how, yeah,
Yeah,
the football
football.
field, so how old is that? Is that gonna be an ongoing, for this next field that we do, is that gonna be an ongoing expense that we gotta consider?
Yeah, no, it always, yeah.
I didn't have that, with the first meeting we had, I didn't even know that information, so there's more to
Oh,
come
yeah,
on
when we
this.
did those artificial fields, we always talked about how they needed to be groomed, those little rubber pellets need to be replaced. They even bought a machine to do that. It's not, you don't buy a turf field and then there's no maintenance behind it. You think, oh, we're gonna turf it, we don't have to water it anymore, we don't have to mow it. There's still maintenance behind it, so Jeff, very good point that, we're gonna build it for 1.2, and then what is it gonna cost us every year in maintenance? Is it more expensive than cutting and watering it? Is it less?
Yeah, it was
So,
a
yeah,
big number that
very
caught
good
me by
point.
surprise for the high school to replace it, because to me, the high school's not that old. So to see the number there for replacement, all right, that means Woodland will be next. That means these will be next, this is like ongoing, a big expense, not, not for.
Well, when you do in the, I don't think it was ever meant to save money. I think it was, you increase the usage on it, and then when it all,
Right. It's an all-season field now.
yeah,
where it
it's not
wasn't
gonna be
before.
cheaper. It's probably gonna be a little bit more expensive, but you're gonna get to use it more.
Correct. So we need to hear all that was the initial meeting, and it was good.
And that's why I didn't want to have Parks come in again, because those were the two main issues that I wanted to get an update on. And nothing had happened since your meeting, so I figured this update was enough, and we're gonna see them come budget time, and I figured all these questions, we can ask them directly when they come in, because I think we're gonna have questions about their budget as well,
What's the
so.
field behind the tradesman proposal?
That's all.
I think that was,
I guess we own like 9 acres or something there.
it was splitting it with Hopedale, but that was, if I memory serves, that was like 3.2 million, it was,
A lot of money.
it was a lot of
Yeah.
money.
And then, then they'd have to have, obviously, they'd want more people because of the mowing and
Yeah.
maintenance up there and all that.
So I think that is off the table, to Jeff's point, and I think that that's been off the table for a while, once they brought out that 3.2 million. And we'd have to use some Hopedale land, and it was, so.
And the one, we won't talk out of school till we see the estimates, but I think the 1.2 is low as well.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even want to talk about numbers, that's why we said that, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is kind of off target, but it's related to the pool. If we're gonna eliminate a swimming pool, wasn't there also a plan that Dino brought forward when they dredged Milford Pond, that they were gonna put a beach there? We were gonna have a swimming area off of the pond?
I can't remember that, to be honest with
Mike, I don't
you.
remember that.
But, I don't remember that, but also, let me tell you, I am not jumping in Milford Pond.
Well, we're not supposed to be clean now, right? I mean, and.
All right, you be the
dredged.
first one in. We'll do those, January 1st, you run in, you run out, what do they call it,
Brownies
the
out
polar
there
bear
from
plunge
Dorchester.
or whatever? We'll send you in there. Yeah, there you go. Thumbs up, please. We'll find him at the Franklin YMCA swimming. He's not gonna be in Milford
Talk about the
Pond.
beach, okay?
Well, we certainly can ask, the Parks Department about a, Milford Pond beach.
Yes, absolutely.
Cabanas, everything. And we'll have the bus stop there, okay?
Oh, wait a minute.
Ah! I knew that you'd get a kick out of that one. We're not opening that. Don't even start. All right, thank you very much, Joyce. I appreciate that. And that's like I said, I didn't want to have the parks come in when there wasn't anything more than that. So the next item on the agenda, I know that we did cover a lot for benefits but Kelly wasn't here. She was sick. But I know there were some aspects that she is obviously the expert on, even though Zach's a pretty smart guy. So we wanted to have Kelly come in and just touch base on a couple of things that we weren't sure about last meeting, so.
Hi, for those that don't know me, my name's Kelly Capisi, I'm the benefits coordinator, and I apologize for not making the last meeting, but I know
The sickness was, he
comforta-
did great.
comfortable with Zach pinch hitting for me. But I know there was some questions, I'm not sure what was covered and what wasn't covered. So I thought I would just talk about our health insurance renewal that we just had. We had a renewal for our senior plans back in the fall, and we did pretty well with our MedX plan. Was actually a decrease of 0.03%, but it was a decrease nonetheless. And our lower enrolled Medicare Advantage plan was a little higher, 585. We just had our renewal for our active employees for the HMO, our dental, and life insurance plans. We had, I thought, was a pretty good renewal, 5.2% for the health, and 2.5% on dental, and 0% for life. I met before the selectmen last month. We're gonna put an article, they approved an article to replenish a health insurance mitigation account that was set up in FY12, I believe, for $100,000. So I put in I requested that we bring it to town meeting to replenish the 100,000, and that was approved, so.
That's the one
We
we
talked about that last
yeah.
time.
Okay.
Yep, just an update, she had put it on, so we're good to go.
I did also make a request of the selectmen in which they approved. Right now, we have a flexible spending account plan. There's a maintenance fee for every plan of $59.40. That has been being paid by the employee. We have had some funds come back every single year, and I averaged out over the 5 years that we've had the plan in place, and with the excess funds that we've had returned, we could cover about 3/4 of the cost. So I did ask the selectmen if we could have the town pick up the cost with the excess funds being used first, and then the health insurance, which is minimal dollars, $1,000 to $2,000 maybe per year.
Hey Kelly, we did also talk about that at the last meeting, and
Okay.
did make a promise that you will come forward to kind of monitor if the town is picking up any bills.
Absolutely, I can, keep track of what the excess funds are compared to what the town would have to chip in. It's, like I said, I did an average over the last 5 years, and the excess funds averaged about 75% of the cost of our current enrollment, which has grown each year.
Now, quick question on that. Now, we had talked about it, and I think that the FHAs are fantastic, and I don't understand why everyone doesn't participate. It blows my mind.
We had a slow start.
Yeah.
And then word of mouth.
So,
And it's
quick-
almost doubled each year.
quick question, because I know that with my wife, we don't pay anything. Where is, and I know that because our enrollment is so small, they have to charge us. Are there breakdowns? If we get to 300 people, they stop charging us? If it's a 200, is
No,
it?
this company we're using, as far as I know, it's.
a consistent charge.
It's a consistent charge. They haven't increased it on
And
us.
you have attempted it for.
I
before,
actually,
right?
yeah, I actually did call them and ask them to, due to the fact that we have higher enrollment, and they said, no, that's our flat across the board. HRC,
HRC?
HR Concepts, they're out of, I believe Nashua.
Well, and I would think too that also, if our enrollment grows, I think our excess funds will always grow proportionally.
Okay.
And if we can continue this policy of using excess funds to try to recoup, then our employees now, instead of paying, was it $59.69?
59, yeah, I
So
think it's
$60.
$60 a year.
All right. And if employees start figuring out that instead of, and it's not in stone, because if we don't approve this, it is gonna be, the $50, $60, that they're only paying 10 or 15, or if the town even picks up that 10 or 15, it costs them nothing, I would think enrollment will explode.
Yes. We have had, I've had some individuals that wanted to try it out, but say they wanted to, I think the maximum is $22,650 per year, if I'm not mistaken. They want to try it out, $500, something like that. But $60 isn't really worth the cost, so it's deterred a lot of people. So I'm hoping that really ramps up the enrollment this year.
Now, will this company do almost everything? Because I don't want, all of a sudden, everybody, all of a sudden, everybody loads up, I don't want your office getting pummeled. Is it mostly the $60 is the
Oh,
service?
they do everything, yes.
All right,
We give them
perfect.
the enrollment form, they take care of everything, so if an
Because it's a
employee.
great thought that I love everybody to enroll, but all of a sudden, if your office gets
Yeah,
swamped.
We're busy this time of year.
Yeah.
But, once you have your account set up and you have an issue or, have a question, you call.
Perfect.
You call the company.
Kelly and her staff put together a really good packet that I just actually got last week that goes out to every employee that I believe was like 10 pages long, that's spelt out.
It explains how the plans work. It has.
You send it out to the people anyway, so it's not like
Right.
whether you had the people enrolled or not.
Just a quick question.
Yes, you do.
Get a debit card and
Correct.
they go to the,
Yep.
spend them on allowable expenses.
Yeah, so
That's
on May 1,
covered by the IRS, by the way. IRS determines. what-
Absolutely. So the company provides you with a debit card after you enroll. And whenever your allotment for the year is up to the $26.50 is available on May 1 on that debit card.
Do we do dependent care as well? Sorry.
Yes, $5,000.
So, we already offer that?
Yes.
Is it
It's-
$60
it's with
for
the
that
same-
too?
It's, yeah, it's the same, in combination
deal.
with that.
Good deal. Yeah, quick question, Kelly. Do you think the forfeiture provisions, you know, kind of limit employees signing up? The risk of forfeiture?
Well, we did sign up in 2013. The IRS allowed businesses to adopt a $500 rollover into the next
Yeah.
calendar year. So we did do that. So it's a use it or lose
That's the,
it.
that's the limitations. I mean, I agree with
That's
Chris. I mean,
why I have-
ordinarily, you would do that. But the question is, hey, am I really gonna spend that much? And if I don't spend it, I lose it, so,
Then, right, so of the 500, they can roll.
Yeah.
So it's helped somewhat.
okay, all right, thank you.
So I'm assuming the packet that you got says like, if you choose the 2,600, say, pre-tax, you're gonna save 300 on tax. I'm sure it has that make or
It
break. So
expla- yeah.
500, like you said, is never gonna cover the 60.
Right, exactly.
But the 26 would. But it's use it or lose it.
Right, so some people want to test it out, see how it works, because,
Understood,
you know,
yeah.
people told them they should do it, but they don't want to invest tons of money, or it's a single person, and they don't think they're gonna,
$50 a month, that's
Right.
fine.
I mean, I made the example last time when you were in here, you know,
Roll 500.
I used it, my kids had braces, January 1, we
Bang.
put the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
It's,
Oh, yeah, definitely, if anybody that
It
has,
can work both ways. It has bitten us maybe only twice.
yeah, but in
But,
overall,
The other way around.
we always make out in the deal.
How many people are enrolled? How
I
many
think
people-
about 88 currently.
So the number is 88 times 60 is your exposure right now for fees. It's not a whole lot.
No, it's not big dollars, but it does deter the employee.
I'm just trying to think, what's the potential liability for the town?
And when,
I'm thinking just with current enrollment and kind of going back over the last few years of the excess funds that we've received, I would say
That's what you look at.
$1,300.
1,300 is our potential outlay?
Approximately.
Worst case scenario.
Worst, yeah.
That's not, that's,
and also
That's
to
easy.
Kelly's point, she mentioned that she averaged the year's excess, and it's about 75%. However, it's been accumulating since
Yeah.
inception, so I think three,
I
4
was-
years would be okay.
Yeah,
for-
I was, you know,
and
I
it's
was,
coming back up.
I was trying to be conservative too.
it's not gonna break the bank, that's
No.
not.
And I
think
thought
the-
it was a goodwill gesture and it would
Absolutely.
ramp up enrollment.
Just like the health insurance premium holiday we had and everything else, it's like, it just, if they've been giving in, let's give it back to these employees who've been doing it, so.
Right.
And I think to your point, if we get 300-400 signed up, we might have some more flexibility with like Discovery or WageWorks or somebody else that's,
I definitely think
It is,
that,
Bank of America does this too for General Motors, I know that.
I'm good.
everybody good on FSAs? and
Yeah,
everything?
I'm good, yep.
Did you have anything else before I asked the big question I had, Jen? We had talked about an opt-out for insurance, and that's one of the big things that I have been harping about for years. Whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense, I just want someone to tell me. Because I know that we had talked about that if a spouse has insurance, could we maybe entice one of our employees with $2,500, or I'm making these numbers, pull them out of my head, don't take the town's insurance anymore, and we could maybe make out. Whether this was gonna make sense or not, I had no idea, but that's one of the big things that I had asked about, so.
I had started to look into that, and I did discuss this with the selectmen, to see if they wanted me to move forward with it. They do, or investigate it further.
Investigations.
I did check a few towns, local towns that do it. It's basically available to somebody that was enrolled the previous 12 months, and if they opt out. Now with deductibles getting so high, I don't know if there would be a lot, if $2,500 would be enough.
Like I said, I just pulled that number out of my
And
head.
it
I
might
had
be.
no-
I mean, we could institute it, I did have some concerns about people that say never enrolled in insurance, and they're like, well, why can't I get a piece of that pie?
Yeah, but in fairness, the 2,500, they're still paying the 30% if they don't opt out. They're paying, yeah, 2,500 might, but they're still paying the 30% on the premium if they don't opt out. So it's more than the, it's a good amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
$1,000.
excuse me, you know, we did something similar years ago, and we couldn't make it work. You know, the employee, there wasn't enough to
I'm
entice,
thinking it would be a handful.
to entice the employees to switch. They just,
Yeah.
there weren't enough dollars there to make it happen.
I don't think there would be enough headcount.
but that's-
And I did check with town council, it would have to be negotiated with each union.
Yeah, and
That
that's what
was-
he had mentioned to me when I spoke with Jerry as well, so. It sounds like, I mean, it's not really gonna make sense. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from both Jerry and you now, so, but I appreciate you. I still want you to look into it, and,
Yeah,
but I'm not feeling as positive as what it
I
is,
wanted
but
to
at
see
least
if
let's
different
look at it.
towns had different ways of doing it, and I'm finding that most of them have the similar, and a lot of them are phasing them out.
Okay. So it's a trend that people are getting away from, not running toward.
Well, it's cost
Keep
savings.
at it, but we're
I mean,
still.
we'll
I
keep
just,
at
if
it,
you could,
yeah.
if you could, because like I said, it's, to me, I just don't know why it doesn't make sense, but I need someone to tell me, and then when I
I'll
hear it, then I'll
definitely-
believe you.
Definitely.
We'll be back, promise.
Does anybody have any other questions for Kelly?
We hit on everything?
Did you want us to touch on the health insurance budget? Would you
Oh,
like-
actually, if you want to do that, that's great.
Okay.
Think you save Kelly a trip?
Nope,
another-
that's fantastic.
Like I
Yep.
said, we discussed it at the subcommittee meeting.
Right before here.
Right
yeah.
before here. We did, I thought, pretty well with our health insurance renewal at 5.2% this year, which is lower than we had the previous year. Our dental was an increase of 2.5% and a 0% for the life insurance. Averaged out to 4.6% increase, which, for health insurance,
I
pretty
know.
good, pretty good. I'm not bringing the kind of good news Jen brings, but.
No, let me tell you, 4.6 for health insurance is actually
think-
pretty good news.
I
It
think
sounds
the
depressing,
trend-
but it is.
Yeah, I think trend this year is just slightly either under 9% or over 9%, so it is, it's an ugly animal, but I thought this year was
Good job with it,
pretty
'cause
good.
that's-
I mean,
We also talked about what we're doing with the OPEB piece, with the pay-as-you-go. So we don't have in front of, for everyone, a copy of the budget, but when you do see it, you're gonna see last year was the first year we broke out retiree health insurance out of the normal health insurance full boat. And we're doing that purposely to be able to track retiree health cost.
as opposed to actives, we did a good guesstimate, I think, in
Yeah.
FY18. So this year, we're really gonna try to,
We should try to nail that down. It's because we do have future plans for this, which we'll have as a topic at another time, I'm sure. But that all has to do with this hot topic of OPEB, and we're trying to plan for the future there. So we'll have a full plan at some point when you're ready for us.
Sounds great. Anybody else got any questions before we let this lady go home?
Sounds good.
Good work. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
in. I appreciate it.
no problem.
Do
you have any
wanna
questions?
mention anything? We just talked about the budget there.
Pretty much what we
I don't know if you wanna
discussed
do
earlier.
something.
Yeah, I mean, we met as a subcommittee and went over some of the detail. You know, I still think there's some questions, and we approved the budget. I mean, I'll tell you that, we approved the budget unanimously. But it's a lot of information for a one-hour meeting, and I just felt that some of the committee wants to take a second look, so I think we'll come back with questions,
Awesome.
okay?
Yeah.
But the budget was approved. You want to add anything? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Zachary, how we
Be
doing with
quick.
budgets coming in?
I don't have too much for you guys. They've been slow. They're due Friday, which is
That's
making
my
me
point.
a little bit nervous, but I've been short-staffed lately, so I haven't been really able to make the phone calls and whatnot. They always seem to come in on time, so tomorrow and Friday I'll be hounding people. But there's a number of topics that will need to be discussed in front of this board for sure. HR one, there's a whole bunch of different things. We implemented the new policy of headcount request. Not as aggressive as I thought it would be, which is good, but there are some items that do need to be discussed. Per the memo I put out, I asked that they did not automatically build them into their budget, as it still needs to go through the proper chain of command and whatnot. So I expect that this committee will have a few of those that they'll need to talk about. We have the new department, HR, that I think will end up in the 150 area, but I expect most budgets, again, to be in by the end of this week, probably a few Monday, Tuesday, whatnot. The next move per the new budget process we put out will be to have a roundtable discussion with the Board of Selectmen, and I'm gonna ask you to come as well. If you wanted to bring anyone else along, please let me know. I'll be sending that out. Hopefully that'll be sometime towards the end of next week or the following. That will be the first stage where we will talk about a lot of these items that I'm mentioning. And then from there, I think we'll be able to really button up a lot of the budgets and have them ready for a primetime presentation. And as usual, we'll take care of them, compile it on Article 4, and be ready to rock for May. So,
Well, I appreciate that, because, I mean, you know, we always say that the second the budget gets passed, we start doing the next one. Because May's gonna be here before you know it. April, we have, 45 articles usually to go over. We obviously have Article 4. We'll see about Article 2.
one of the roundtable discussions.
Yep.
we need.
So we had a lot going on, so I'm hoping all the departments meet our goal and get those in on Friday.
Yes.
Because I would like to have that roundtable sooner rather than later. I know, I'm talking to you like you already know this, because we've had this discussion. Because I do want to get our feet running on the budget. I think this year is going to be tighter than usual. I think we're still going to have wiggle room, but I think we're going to have a tight year this year. And I think there's going to be a little bit more debate. We always have debate, I don't mean it that way, but I think we're going to have a little bit more debate in some departments regarding budgets this year. Things are getting tighter.
I think it will be a tight year. It really needs to be looked at.
So
There's a
that's
lot
why
going
I
on.
want to get things in as soon as possible. I'm figuring we're going to have a couple meetings in April. I think our regular Wednesday and maybe the Thursday to try to hit the articles. And then obviously, subcommittees prior to that, we need to have all our budgets looked at prior to those two meetings. Because like I said, May's going to be here before you know it. So,
If I may, I got a couple comments on the.
yep, let Bobby first.
Just a quick question, Zach. If you know, I read, I forget where I read it, which paper it was, but I'm under the understanding that the committee who looked at the town meeting processes and procedures have authorized 2 articles, and the selectmen have authorized 2 articles to go forward, whereby certain articles in the town meeting warrant will be grouped together.
That's correct.
Do you know if any of those concern financial issues?
No, none of them do.
It's mostly like street acceptances or something.
I'm not even sure it's that. It's recurring ones each year. For instance, the ability to have a
The
5-year
treasurer to borrow money.
contract.
The ones we call
Yeah.
housekeeping that Jerry
Housekeeping.
yells at
Yeah.
us, yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fantastic idea, because there is no reason
Reason, right.
why something that has no discussion, it hasn't had a discussion in 30
20 years,
years,
30 years.
that we need to read it, we need to sit motion and everything, and we make the meetings longer, and we, and then at the end of the meeting, we're worrying about quorums, we're worrying about important articles that happen to be number 43. There's no energy left in the room, and we don't talk about it, so,
I was just curious.
no, it's
I believe.
a great point.
I know, it actually is being it's not like a town meeting article asking, it's being implemented. So when you said 44, 45, I think the number's like 27, 28.
That's what, it usually is 44, 45.
It is, it
To cut it
is,
to something
yeah.
like that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Instead of somebody getting up, going up and down all night, you take articles of the same nature.
I don't know the
It would
100%
be
details.
similar to how Article 4 is done, where if anyone had a problem with one or
We'll pull them
two-
out line by line,
Yeah.
or article by article.
No, it's done
excuse me.
like A, B, C, D, E.
But if the same sponsor is sponsoring 3 articles, they could just stand up there for all 3 articles rather than going up and down.
I'm not sure how it works. I don't want to
Is that what
comment
Do
on
we
that.
know if one of them is to start the town meeting at 7 o'clock?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so.
6:30.
I think so. Yeah.
All right,
Couple things. One, first, I want to ask if you guys, any subcommittees having trouble with any budgets, if you need me to kind of step in or anything like that. Just want to make sure that people are meeting with.
yep, so please, anybody who is having an issue, please reach out to Zach and get it going.
Good. Earlier, when the assessor was here, we were talking about returning 45,000. Just wanted to make everyone aware that there are, as usual, at the annual town meeting, transfers, and I plan on using that money to fund other areas through transfers rather than health insurance or whatever. Finally, to your comment the other day with manageable snow and ice, I just wanted to
I was gonna bring
Way
it
to go,
up.
Mike.
I was gonna wait for Skiavi to do it.
really quick update. the bills I have in front of me now, which there'll be more, there'll be all the payroll that's paid in arrears and whatnot, but we're at 308,000. So honestly, not horrible.
Not too bad, yeah. I thought it'd be worse. Yeah, I'm surprised, actually, yeah.
208,000 is the total? or-
No, in the
No.
deficit.
In deficit.
Yeah, but
So we're
we have a
908.
deficit every, we have a deficit every year.
Yep,
900 to a million.
yeah.
Well, we got another snowstorm. And all the bills aren't in, so that number's gonna go up.
I hope not. Okay.
Exactly, it will, yeah.
All right, Zachary.
All righty?
Anybody else got anything for Zach before we let him go home to his kids? Yeah, I tried to help you out. I even dropped the kids in there for you. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, Zach,
Does anyone have any other subcommittee reports? Mr. Nicholson?
Just a recap on the well-attended subcommittee meeting at the library back on March 6th. Their current fiscal year budget is running pretty much in tune. Their contracts expire June 30th, so that'll be coming up on the budget's future. We took a look at their proposed FY19 budget. There was some line items that really the subcommittee wasn't too happy about. We discussed those with them, and they are taking these up supposedly with the Board of Trustees on tomorrow night. Hopefully then this can get adjusted before Zach's deadline. The library director has been meeting with Zach and Rick Villani as far as the IT transition. I know Zach is especially addressing capital items. There were some questions about whether there were any general expense line items involved in that or not. That's something that we got to make sure we straighten out on that. We had to be careful about reducing their overall budget because of the math certification issues, but I still want to keep an eye on that because I don't want anyone taking advantage of that little issue. As far as their capital item articles, the Article 20 from back in 2014 has been completed. This is one of these older ones that's kind of almost bordering on use it or lose it. Article 25 from 2015, library upgrades, that is still active because it was not just one big item. There's a lot of pieces. So that one is still going on even though it's 2015. 2016, the server room AC system, that one was finally resolved as a small expenditure. The paving a parking lot, which was approved, Article 21 in 2017, is still open. They're working with the highway department and the contract paver to get that done. And then the last article that they have out is Article 22 from October 2017 on updating the HVAC controls systems. And that one is getting complicated. It's going from simple to complicated because you have different potential contractors coming in and saying, well, we want to do this, and others, well, I think you ought to do this. Okay, then let's have them quote this. And I'll be honest with you, I think by the time this thing gets done, we're going to kind of be looking like we did with the fence. Back away and come back in again. But I've asked the library director to give us an update on, give sort of an exec summary so that we can fully understand what's going on there and what it looks like outlook-wise. As far as 5-year capital planning, you can anticipate an article coming up in October for carpeting replacements. I think this is mainly in the children's area. This has been on the capital plan. And they are going to plan to move the archival shelving item for around 10,000 or so from FY19 back to about 21. Take some pressure off there. And I would look at projecting nominal replacement and upgrade articles between 19 and FY20 and 23. Excuse me, a few in the $25,000 to $40,000 range. Nothing abnormal. There'll be some minutes coming out on the meeting, but we're looking right now to see what their response is on the general expense area in their 19 budget.
One additional comment. This HVAC control item goes back to your days even then? I started getting the sense that we were starting to bobble this around back and forth from vendor to vendor, and it started troubling me as to what was going to happen, if anything was ever going to happen, because of this swapping off. And I suggested, and I don't know what's going to happen with it, I'm kind of looking for some input from the committee, maybe someone knows, that they go hire a HVAC consultant and get an engineering proposal and then ship it out to a vendor for installation, rather than leaving the poor people of the library, whether it be the library director, she's not an engineer, or anybody on the board, and go get a professional consultant. These controls in this unit are 15, 20 years old. They're not solid state controls. They're a set of relays stopping on top. This is just destined for failure. I'm hoping they'll take that suggestion, and I'm hoping they'll come back with a request for a consultant fee. I'm not one big on consultant, but if I can get an engineer certified to say, this is what I would recommend to upgrade this system, then I can send it out to someplace and have a vendor do it. I'm hoping that, does anybody else run it? Because there's just no expertise and I really
No, it makes a lot of sense, Jerry.
get concerned when you start trying to upgrade controls and electronics and all this stuff, and it's the blind leading the blind.
No.
I hate to say this, but it's one salesman or one vendor trying to sell his product against somebody else, and I'm
There's no
not
question,
sure.
Jerry. I think it's a great point. I think a lot of us, certain things are in our wheelhouse and certain things are not. And I don't think,
And
heating and air conditioning is in Sue's wheelhouse, so.
And we've got some good pros in town. We've actually got some good resources in town.
Good
I'm
point.
hoping
Hopefully
they'll-
I'll follow up with the,
I'm hoping they'll call
with the
up
library
on
director,
these
but I
people and
think
say,
it's
give
good
me an engineering plan, right, Mike?
Right.
And, because this is one area you can spend a lot of money and screw it up really bad.
Mike, fantastic report as usual. You're always good with your subcommittee reports.
Thank you.
Anybody else get a subcommittee report?
Just a quick
Yep.
question on subcommittee. I heard on the radio for the 2 bills that the governor signed for the water company. Do we have any idea how that's gonna impact us?
Oh, it's positive.
Was it positive?
Oh, yeah. That's what we were aiming at.
One was about the asset sale. I forget what the other one was.
One is about the 40-year term on
Oh,
the.
yeah.
Well, that was
Yeah,
for the able to
And
finance
the
for
other
40
one-
years,
And
which
the
has
other
been-
one allows the water company to dissolve itself. But that bill will allow that water company to essentially go away as part of the transaction. That's the really abbreviated version.
Gotcha. No, thank you.
Anybody got anything else? Mr. Mendoza?
Just a quick reminder, when we're reviewing the budgets with our department heads, review old articles, if there's any that are outstanding.
Sure.
Yeah.
That can be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that when we did that last year, when Zach brought in that list, it lit a fire under a lot of people. So I think a lot of people are going forward. No, great, thank you very much. But when he brought in that list. One last thing I want to bring up, because it came up at the selectmen's meeting, and I think it's an important thing, and it's just something to put on our radar, and I definitely don't want to get into the discussion tonight. The selectmen brought up the need to look at our safety in our schools. Obviously, this is a hot topic now. But it's also something that I think is extremely important, because it's one of those things that I do not want to look at this 6 months from now and have something happen and say, well, we knew we were supposed to look at it and we didn't. I think they brought up that we want to just take a look and make sure that all our buildings are safe for our employees and our children and everything else. And it came up their meeting, and I think it's something that, like I said, I don't think any of us ever want to look back and say, we didn't look at it, because that's something that is unregrettable, so, regrettable.
Did the selectmen
They
have
discussed.
an action plan?
They didn't have an action plan, but it came up, and I just wanted to give everyone that it's gonna be on the radar. I don't think it's gonna be anything cheap, but I wanted everyone, if you want, you can watch a selectmen's meeting, but I just want everyone to know that it's a topic that's gonna be coming up, I think even this Maytown meeting. So if you want, you can watch, the selectmen's meeting, but I think it's an
I hope so.
important thing that, this town needs to look at. Maybe we're fine, but I think it's extremely important for the safety of our teachers, students, and people who work in this building and every other building, that they feel safe when they come to work.
Yeah, the school subcommittee has a meeting Monday
Yep.
night, so, that may come up.
But anyway, I just want to let everyone know that that's something that is new that I had heard recently, and it came up at the selectmen's meeting. So, when things come up, I like to make everyone aware, so you can put your ear to the grindstone and see if you hear anything about it, so. Anybody else get anything? All right, well, thank you very much, guys. Motion by
adjourned, go home.
Jerry, second by Mike, I guess. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks and have a good night.